Humans are weird. We can literally fly through the sky, breathe underwater with machines, and shoot rockets to the moon.
We've basically become the gods our ancestors used to tell scary bedtime stories about. But there's one tiny update the universe still refuses to push but Tony, the Immortality patch. The average human lifespan today is around 7-3 years. That's nothing. You could be born, blink twice, and boom, the world has. Then you blink again, and you're gone before we even colonize Mars. We went from living 35 years in the 1700s to almost 80 today, but we haven't even scratched the surface of beating death itself. Because here's the brutal truth. Your body, this squishy, leaking meat computer, has an expiration date written in your DNA. No matter how many kale smoothies you drink or how much sunscreen you wear, your cells can only divide so many times before they just give up. So, if we can't stop dying, maybe we can just pause it. That question launched one of science's most controversial ideas, cryonics. The dream that if you freeze a human body the moment it dies, future scientists could thaw it back to life. Sounds crazy, right? Well, in 1956, a man in America decided to make it real. Meet Evan Cooper, a science enthusiast who founded something called the Life Extension Society. His idea was simple. If we can freeze food, why not freeze people? He even published a paper proposing that volunteers could be frozen immediately after death and stored until future technology could fix them. And surprisingly, this wasn't a joke, and he was dead serious. Cooper even offered free cryonic preservation to anyone brave enough to try. Guess how many volunteers signed up? Zero. Because let's be honest, that day, nobody wants to be the first ice cube in human history.
But one man did say yes. James Bedford, a psychology professor from California. He was 7'3", dying of cancer, and decided to take Cooper's theory into the real world.
When Bedford died in 1967, his body was placed on ice, literally, and chemicals were pumped into his veins to replace his blood.
That process, now called cryopreservation, aimed to prevent ice crystals from shredding his cells. But the technology was crude and the chemicals toxic. Still, he became the first human ever cryonically frozen, the first patient waiting for future revival.
His relatives weren't thrilled. His wife and son even spent over $250,000 fighting legal battles just to honor his wish to be frozen.
50+ years later, James Bedford is still so frozen today. He's technically been alive, or at least stored at Diamond, longer than most of us have been breathing. Okay, let's break down the science, Kapensu, because this is where things get both fascinating and horrifying. Your Tikdiv. Your body is about 6% water. When water freezes, it expands and forms ice crystals, sharp, jagged ones that destroy cells like tiny knives. Cryonics tries to stop that by replacing your blood with cryoprotectants, chemicals that lower the freezing point and prevent ice crystals from forming.
The modern process involves cooling the body down to minus 196 degrees Celsius, the temperature of liquid nitrogen.
At that point, metabolism stops entirely. No decay, no decomposition, no activity. It's basically hitting the world's most extreme pause button. But there's a catch. If even a few crystals form inside your organs, they rupture the cells, making revival impossible. That's why modern cryonics uses a faster method called vitrification grips, where water turns into a glass-like solid instead of ice.
Sounds elegant and veneous, but there's one big issue. It only works on small tissues.
We can successfully vitrify embryos, sperm, even tiny slices of skin. But a full human body? That's like trying to freeze a Thanksgiving turkey without ruining the meat, except your turkey has 37 trillion cells. So yeah, good luck with that. Today, there are about 205 people frozen in cryonics facilities worldwide, and are mostly in the US and Russia. Another 1,500 have paid in advance, in Kent, basically reserving their spot in humanity's ultimate waiting room. The cost? Anywhere from $28,000 to $200,000. For that price, you don't get eternal life, just eternal storage. Your body, or sometimes just your head gets sealed in a steel tank filled with liquid nitrogen, surrounded by others doing the same cold gamble. But here's the part cryonics companies don't love to mention. Most of the early firms went bankrupt. Their tanks lost funding, and hundreds of patients were quietly thawed out. Permanently. Even the famous Bedford case was moved multiple times as companies shut down. His survival so far is more luck than science. And even if you stay frozen, who's guaranteeing someone will pay your electric bill 500 years from now? Cryonics sounds like science, but behaves more like faith. A faith that someday, future humans will not only remember you, but care enough to bring you back. So let's say you've got 200 grand and an unhealthy obsession with living forever. You sign up for cryonics, you die peacefully, and they rush your body into a lab, and boom, you're submerged in liquid nitrogen at minus.
Congratulations! You are now a very expensive ice cube.
But here's where the logic starts to crack now. The freeze now, fix later idea assumes that one day, technology will be advanced enough to repair your body cell by cell. The problem? We have zero evidence that this is even theoretically possible. When cells freeze, their membranes rupture, proteins denature, and chemical bonds snap like dry spaghetti. Even if you thawed them perfectly, the brain, a structure more complex than the Milky Way, might never reboot the same way twice. And that's before we even talk about memory. Your identity, your personality, your humor, all depend on fragile neural connections. Destroy those, and you're not you anymore, Ka. You're just a rebooted meat sculpture with your name tag. Science has already revived some frozen things. Frog embryos, human sperm, even nematode worms that woke up after 40,000 years in ice. But humans? Not even close. Not even close. Our organs are too big, our systems too interdependent, and our consciousness too mysterious.
So cryonics isn't pausing life. It's more like saving the file with half the data corrupted and hoping future scientists find the missing parts.
And yet, people keep signing up.
Cryonics has become a legit industry, if your definition of legit includes freezing corpses and hoping for time travel.
The biggest company, Alcor Life Extension Foundation, runs massive steel tanks in Arizona. Inside, bodies, heads, pets, and dreams. They call their clients patients, not corpses, because marketing, apparently, doesn't die. Some go full package, a deck, whole body preservation for $200,000. Others choose the economy plan height, head only, a bargain at $8,000. The theory, when the future gets good enough, they'll grow you a new body. You're betting that the company never goes bankrupt. technology eventually exists to resurrect you. Future people even want to bring you back. That's a big leap of faith. Oh, especially for a species that can't even keep avocado prices stable.
And yet, the psychology behind it makes sense.
Cryonics sells hope, Nending, not science.
It promises the one thing no religion or medicine has ever delivered. A maybe instead of a never.
Because when people face death, they'll pay anything for a maybe.
Let's say my Tepi just hypothetically tape nantias chai. Cryonics actually works one day. Congratulations! You wake up in the year 3125. Your money's gone, your relatives are dust, and everyone's communicating telepathically through Wi-Fi 12. Cool. Now, what?
This is the ethical nightmare scientists love to avoid.
If we ever can revive the frozen, what are they legally? Patients, property, historical artifacts?
Who is responsible for their mental health? How do they adapt to a future they never consented to live in?
Imagine a 1960s man waking up in a post-AI society.
He wouldn't understand gender, politics, or even iPhones. He'd be a relic a time refugee. Then there's the resource problem. If millions of rich people freeze themselves, who decides who gets revived first?
The billionaires? The geniuses? The influencers with 200 million followers?
Cryonics, in theory, could make inequality eternal.
The wealthy would get to sleep through death, while everyone else decomposes like a regular person.
So even if cryonics someday works, it might not save humanity. It might just freeze our hierarchy in place.
Maybe immortality isn't about living forever. Maybe it's about leaving something that does.
James Bedford didn't just freeze a body. Okay, he froze an idea. That humans, no matter how fragile, will always push against the limits of nature.
We've lit fire, split atoms, and landed on other worlds. Oh, maybe freezing ourselves is just another step in that pattern.
But maybe, too, it's a mirror, Tay, showing how scared we are of endings.
Because death isn't just the end of life, a plaint. It's the reason we value it.
Without it, there's no urgency, no meaning, no reason to binge watch, fall in love, or waste hours arguing about pineapple on pizza.
Maybe the real tragedy isn't that we die. It's that we spend so much of our short lives pretending we won't.
So, could humans ever freeze themselves and come back to life? Maybe someday. But until then, you're already on a timer. So make the next 70 years worth defrosting.